The West's 100-year opportunity. Sometimes, history does not move in a straight line, but functions as a rare window of opportunity, a brief interval where standard rules cease to apply and the geopolitical map is redrawn. This is exactly the kind of window currently opening for the United States and the European Union. Such moments may occur once a decade or once a century, and the key to this window is Ukraine. Before the full-scale war, Russia appeared to be a country that, despite its weaknesses, maintained a firm grip on the post-Soviet space. It held its neighbors within its sphere of influence through energy dependence, military leverage, information operations, corrupt networks, and fear. However, the unprovoked aggression against Ukraine, which Moscow envisioned as a short, victorious campaign, turned into a trap. Instead of a strategic triumph, the war is exhausting Russia demographically, economically, technologically, and politically. The longer this war lasts, the more the myth of the inevitability of Russian dominance fades away. Parallel to Russia's exhaustion, another strategic process has emerged. States that spent decades in Moscow's orbit began seeking new vectors for their foreign policy. Previously, Moscow maintained influence through a combination of hard and soft power, military presence, control over energy flows, the dependence of local elites on Moscow markets, intelligence networks, and fueling of frozen conflicts to keep countries vulnerable. But the war against Ukraine destroyed the foundation of this system, the belief in Russia's strength as an unavoidable center of gravity. Shifting tectonic plates. After 2022, post-Soviet states received several clear signals. First, Russia can be preoccupied and unable to guarantee its allies' security as it once claimed. Second, excessive ties to Moscow have become a liability, bringing risks of sanctions, reputational loss, and being dragged into conflicts. Third, viable alternatives have emerged. Turkey has strengthened its role in the Black Sea and Caucasus regions. The EU has revitalized its enlargement and partnership policies, and the US has gained moral and political capital to act as a security guarantor in spaces previously deemed off-limits due to Russian dominance. Ukraine is the striking example. It didn't just break away from the gray zone between the West and Russia. It became a political and military ally of the West in the strongest sense of the word. This shifted the perception of the entire region. If Ukraine could withstand the pressure, other countries could also build policies without the fear of Moscow. A reorientation is also occurring in the South Caucasus. Azerbaijan is increasingly coordinating its policy with Turkey, asserting its sovereignty and demonstrating that it needs a real system of partnerships rather than Russian peacekeepers. Armenia, long a formal ally of the Russian Federation, began seeking support from other power centers, including France, the US, and European institutions. The reason is simple. When Moscow fails to act as a guarantor, a country is forced to diversify its security and diplomacy. These processes are not limited to the Caucasus. In Central Asia, states are striving to balance between Russia, China, Turkey, and the West, reducing their reliance on a single big brother. They are watching Russia deplete its resources and concluding that the future lies in multi-vector diplomacy, economic modernization, and new logistics corridors bypassing Russia. Even Belarus, Russia's closest military-political ally, could become a field for long-term revision. We are talking not about immediate changes, but a potential perspective. As Russia weakens, its ability to hold Belarus as an outpost diminishes. This gives the West a chance to shape scenarios for Minsk's gradual exit from total dependence as soon as internal conditions arise. A new geopolitical contour. We are witnessing not chaotic fluctuations, but a clear trend. The space long considered Russia's natural sphere of influence is transforming into a competitive field for development models. If the US and the EU act strategically, investing in security, infrastructure, and education, they can solidify a new geopolitical reality for generations to come. This means the West has a chance to extend its influence far to the east. Before the war, this chance barely existed. The Russian gray zone blocked integration and used energy as blackmail. Now, the prospect of building a broader belt of partnerships from Central and Eastern Europe to the South Caucasus and Central Asia is open. This is not just geographical expansion, it is the formation of a new security and economic contour capable of deterring revanchism. Why a 100-year chance? This is not a temporary diplomatic initiative, but a fundamental shift in the balance of power. Russia, with the tacit approval of China, went to war against Ukraine expecting a swift success. The plan was cynical. A lightning victory would not only crush Ukrainian statehood, but provide Russia with massive human, industrial, and geographical resources to pressure other post-Soviet states and eventually restore control over the former Warsaw Pact. Ukraine was not the end goal, it was the key to a wider revanchist breakthrough in Europe. But Ukraine flipped the table. It became the wall against which Moscow's ambitions shattered. The 4-year conflict and Western sanctions have eroded the Russian state. The economy is losing its resilience, the technological base is degrading, and social fatigue is mounting. Russia is losing the image of the inevitable force upon which its power over its neighbors rested. In this context, China is beginning to realize it bet on the wrong horse. If Russia cannot deliver the planned geopolitical result, Beijing views it as a dependent satellite to be exploited for cheap resources and controlled markets. The dream of using Russia as a battering ram to break into Europe via Ukraine has failed. It is no coincidence that before the invasion, the Chinese leadership spoke of times and opportunities that happen once in several hundred years. It was a high-stakes gamble. They expected Ukraine to fall, opening the gates for Eastern autocracies to impose a model where the right of the weak does not exist and rules are written by those who wield the most violence. The opposite happened. Ukraine stands, and the West's role, through weapons, financial aid, and political solidarity, has been decisive. This has created the conditions for the West to displace Russia from Eastern Europe, the Caucasus, and Central Asia, while preventing China from filling the vacuum. However, such a window of opportunity tends to close. The West must act decisively, not only supporting Ukraine until victory, but building a new security architecture now. Today, the situation is unfavorable for Russia. Its oil and gas are no longer the critical global resources they once were, and its traditional markets are being seized by the US and its partners. Seizing this chance will provide long-term security, economic advantages, and competitive edge over China in the industries of the future. Most importantly, it will allow Russia to be driven back within its internationally recognized borders, removing a source of constant blackmail. Ukraine is the tipping point. It has provided the Western world with the opportunity to redraw the old map of influence and build a safer, more just order. But the war is not over, and comprehensive long-term support for Ukraine remains critical. The window of opportunity will not stay open forever. If not used now, the next such chance may not appear for many decades.